Hello, I'm Wander001, and this is my review of Discovery Plus on the Roku. Discovery Plus is one of the newest contenders in the market for grabbing your streaming attention. For many of you like myself, I am a cord cutter. Some of you might be cord nevers, or some of you might just be looking to see, hey, I heard Discovery Plus has some interesting shows that only show up here, so I wanted to see what I was getting myself into. To start, I'm not going to cut any of the load times on this review, just so you can see buffering, how long things take to get started. And the Roku device I'm using is the Roku Ultra, review in the corner, from a few years ago, but it was top tier when I got it, so it should still be good for the purposes of this to show lag and things of that nature. So why don't we get things started? For starters, you are brought to the Who's Watching page. Discovery Plus allows you to have up to 5 profiles with 4 simultaneous streams at once. As you can see, I have several profiles already set up, and under the ones that are already existing, there's a little pencil icon. If I use the directional D-pad on the Roku remote and select down, I can edit a profile. I can edit the profile's name simply by clicking here, or if you come over to the right, you can actually edit the image. By default, you'll have the picture with no face, but you can pick from any one of these profile pictures. I will say the profile pictures themselves are a little limiting, but that could change in the future. If I were to add a new profile, it's pretty much just give it a name, give it a picture, and then you're done. There are no parental controls with Discovery Plus, meaning you cannot have a password protected account, or there's no dedicated kids account. I do understand that the majority of the shows that are on Discovery Plus are not geared towards younger audiences, but the addition of that would have been something nice to see. While we're talking about what we get with Discovery Plus, there are 2 different paid subscription services for Discovery Plus. One is your ad version, which rounding up is $5 a month, and then there's an ad-free version at $7 a month. Again, rounding up. For the purposes of my review, I tested the week free trial on the ad version because, well, I wanted to actually get that experience and see what that was like. So I'll be interjecting with that a little later, but I do want to mention that when I chose to upgrade, or after the trial period was over, actually use the ad-free version, the week-long trial terminated immediately and then went over to ad-free subscription. So I did lose 2 days of my free trial. Discovery, I'm looking at you. You might want to fix that. Now, let us actually go into one of my profiles. And the main profile that I've been using is family because, well, I use this a lot with my wife when we sit down and just, want something to watch. When you first log in, you will notice at the top, you see the For You. This For You is an aggregate of what Discovery Plus thinks you would be interested in based on things that you've watched listed, and more of their secret sauce algorithm. That algorithm, in my opinion, needs some work because, well, this spotlight thing right here, America's List, Street Outlaws, I have watched nothing or favorited nothing that would make it think that I would actually enjoy this. But coming down, we can either start watching or add this to my list for later viewing. And I will say, unlike Netflix and some of the other streaming services, you'll notice that there's not a pre-roll of information letting you know kind of like, hey, this is what this is actually about. It's just text and a picture. Coming down, we have the first line of information. Now, if you thought Discovery Plus was just Discovery, you would be sadly mistaken. Here we can see we have Discovery Plus Originals, which are things that are just on streaming app itself, but you also have HGTV, Food Network, TLC, ID, OWN, Travel Channel, Magnolia Network, Discovery, Planet Earth, Animal Planet, A&E, History, Lifetime, Science, DIY, Cooking, The Dodo, Pop Sugar, Now This, Seeker, Thrillist, Destination America, AHC, and Discovery Life. There are a lot of channels that fall under that Discovery umbrella. There are a few problems with that. unless it is actually a Discovery-owned property, you're not going to get all the episodes. So, for instance, the History Channel, and this is a great example, American Pickers, when you actually watch or look for that particular show, you only get seasons 1, 2, and 15 of the many seasons that I know American Pickers has. So it's still a work in progress, and I think a lot of that might have to do with contractual things where they're bringing in these properties from the likes of Hulu and other streaming services that they had contracts with. But coming down on our For You, we have Featured. So again, featured things that based on your likes, it thinks you would enjoy. And I'm just cycling through those. Recommended for you. This is supposed to be based on your history and favorites list purely. There are a few things that I'm iffy on. The Portals to Hell that I'm currently on would be one of them. I watched, in air quotes, 2 episodes of Ghost Adventures just to see how the progression would be monitored. But the rest of this, I'll say, minus the Paranormal, Dead Files, things like that, Deadliest Catch I probably would watch. It's a mixed bag. The algorithm needs a little work, but I'm not going to fault them for that. Discovery Originals will just be all of the Discovery shows that only show up on Discovery Plus. I will say that I did watch the Back to the Future with Josh Gates. That is on Discovery Plus, and it was very good. Trending shows, continue watching. So this is actually what I have been watching, which currently has been Mystery at Museums after binge watching Josh Gates stuff. So here you can see that if you start, here we go, an episode, it does have a white progression line underneath it, letting you know how far into the episode you got. And I kind of like that. But the one thing that I don't like is underneath each of these episodes, it does not say season episode. Yes, it does say that up there in the upper left, but I kind of visually would like to see that here. And this is why Ghost Adventure stuff is getting suggested to me, because I wanted to see, again, progression-wise, what this would look like. Now, this particular progression one looks a little odd in that the end of it looks like it should be filled up, but it's not. It's, again, UI stuff that they could fix. My list, this is where all of the things that you favorite show up. So what do I mean by favorite? If we come down to, hypothetically here, I'm going to select using the OK button. I can add it to my list. When I add it to my list, it shows up in that Add to List area. If we come down, we can see seasons. Now, you'll notice that there is a little delay between when I move the icon over and it actually cycles to the correct season. That, again, could be something that needs to be worked on, but it's not terrible, and you don't really notice it if you're jumping right into something and watching it again. Within a particular show, you'll notice that it does get highlighted in white. I wish this was a little bolder, again, because of the picture in the background. It kind of gets lost sometimes, but you also do have access to You May Also Like, letting you know, hey, based on this particular show, people like this other show. And you notice that underneath each of these shows, there's a little Food Network icon. That's letting you know that all of these shows that it's recommending to you are part of the Food Network family. That's going to come into play a little later. Now we're going to go back for the Watch as a Family. It just goes on and on into that it breaks it out for you. I do appreciate that by selecting the back button on your Roku remote, it brings you all the way back up to the top level instead of having to cycle back up like some other streaming channels make you do. If we come over, you have relationships. So again, it's going to aggregate things based on this particular topic, relationships. True crime, same thing. Aggregation of true crime. Home. If we scroll down, just to give you an idea, again, trending for home, featured for home, buy, selling, building, recommended for you, flipping. Now you'll notice that your watch list and the continue watching are not shown in these aggregated areas. But if we come back and go over, again, for you, this is where you can find them. I do wish that their location on this page was actually a little higher, because as you can see, that's 4 deep that I've had to go to get to my continue watching area and just to access my playlist on this screen. And I only say on this screen because if we select the back button on our Roku remote and then use the directional D-pad to bring ourselves over to the side menu, we're currently on home, but we can select browse, which will now let us add, as you saw there popping up, but brings us to a listing of everything. So here we have all, and this is all shows, but right now it is broken down into trending. Notice that underneath each of these different icons, you have Discovery, Travel, TLC, Discovery, ID. It is showing you where these particular episodes and shows are being aggregated from, which I kind of like to know where things came from. A to Z is probably going to be your best bet if you want to go and dig through everything. But if you did want to go and do A to Z, you can actually come over and select across the top here which particular channel you would like to A to Z through. So I want to aggregate everything from the travel channel, come down A to Z, and I can find what I'm looking for. I will say that Discovery Plus is kind of the streaming service that I've been waiting for, because a lot of the shows that I used to watch way back when I had cable all came from Travel Channel, HGTV, Discovery Channel, and my wife with the Food Network. So to have them all accessible in one place is very helpful. Now, if we come back over to our side menu and scroll down, my list is going to show you all the things that you have favorited. So here you can clearly see Josh Gates was one of the reasons that we were looking at Discovery Plus. Now, Secret Eats is something that I did not know about, because when it aired on actual TV, I was already cord cutting and did not know about this until we watched Pluto, review in the corner there, which is free to watch with ads, but it's like regular TV, so you don't get to pick and choose what you want. So it was interesting to see that here. Now we're going to go back one more time and select search. Searching will allow you to search for anything. However, you can see that there are some pre-populated searches, top searches, and just added. So these are episodes of things that have been added. Now, you can search by show, and I will search for an old guilty pleasure of mine way back when. So you can kind of see that as I was typing, it's aggregating what it's looking for. And then if I hit the back button on the Roku remote, here's all the ghost stuff. So I was looking for, here we go, Ghost Hunters. So that's an old show that I used to watch, which apparently is on A&E now. I do believe it was on Discovery. But here again, we run into they only have season 11, 10, and 9, because this is not a Discovery-owned property. We're going to use this as a example of demonstrating load time and buffering. So if I start this particular episode, I'm going to have to do things this way since they really are strong with the DMCA. Here we go. There's a load. Just going to mute that and pause that. So there along the bottom, you can see that there's no buffer indicated. However, if this was an ad version, you would see ad placement along the bottom of the screen. What I will say is, if I press fast forward on the Roku remote, it only jumps it forward without displaying a preview. So you can do 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see how quickly that goes. But it does not actually preview what's going on. You can use the directional pad to slowly move this forward. However, again, without a preview, it's just odd. There are other services like this. I wish this one would have had a preview as well. If we come back and select a different show, hypothetically one that's on a Discovery-owned property, just to demonstrate one other thing, which is, unlike many other shows, other streaming services, there's no skip the opening button. Granted, for this particular show, it does not appear that that would be there. However, on other shows that have an opening, I do wish it was there. What I can say for the shows, they do, and it has gotten a little better, they do start off a little blurry and then fully render in. Now, I have noticed that with the Roku in particular, because I have tested this against my NVIDIA Shield and TiVo 4K, reviews up in the corner, Android has a little buffer, and you could see that the show is buffering. With Roku, you don't have that, so it was a little weird. And I will say that I did notice some rubber banding. So those familiar with gaming, you progress on screen but don't really progress and then jump ahead or jump back. When I first started testing Discovery Plus, I will say they have gotten better with that, but every now and then I still notice it. If you happen to be watching this with ads, I can say that for a 22-minute show, you will see 1 to 2 ad breaks, and the ads are about a minute in length. If you are watching anything longer than that, so a 45-minute to an hour show, you're going to see them normally during the regular ad breaks. However, I have noticed that the ads did pop up in odd circumstances every now and then, but with this, it's with a $2 difference, it's almost worth just spending the money to get the ad-free version. When I went up to browse and have everything that's here and come down to A to Z, Discovery Plus is launching, or has launched because it has been accessible for quite some time now, with 55,000 episodes for 2,500 shows, which is just insane if you think of it. However, those of you who may be looking at this as a means of watching these episodes or shows live when they're happening, this is not the service for you. Discovery Plus is a video on demand service, so you're only going to be able to watch what they have on the platform. And to me, that's perfectly fine. That's the Netflix model, that's the Hulu model. You will have shows that are airing on TV, and if we come back to my list, things like Expedition Unknown. I binge watch this entire series when I got Discovery Plus. However, when I was watching it, the latest season was airing on TV. So, like Hulu, you have to wait for it to show up here. However, this is more similar to Disney Plus in that you have to wait until all the season is done before they'll move it to their streaming platform. However, with a few of their shows, this one in particular, I noticed, Josh Gates Tonight, you actually get access to this show a day or two, depending on the show, because there's a couple on here that do that, before it airs on TV, which is kind of interesting, but they're not going to do it, I think, with their top tier stuff. The one problem that I have with the My List, there is no way to actually reorder these. So I removed Josh Gates Tonight. So if I come and actually search for it, just to show you the searching again, and kind of see how janky it is, because you have to hunt and pick for what you're looking for. And it's not super responsive. There we go. If I come back to Josh Gates Tonight and then go to my list, it's now the first. There is no way to reorder these. I wish they would let you do that, but I can see in some cases why they wouldn't. But it's more of a user interface thing that I kind of just wish they would allow. So the question you might be asking yourself, is this right for you? Well, I will admit, of the vast majority of streaming services that I have tested, this is actually one that I paid for after I was done testing it. Granted, I always have Netflix. I jump 3 months at a time with Hulu. Amazon Prime I have because, well, I'm an Amazon Prime member. I can see myself with Discovery Plus after I finish binge watching for this month. When a new season of something that I want to watch comes to it, I will reactivate it. That is something that you have to consider. You don't need all of the streaming services all of the time. You can hopscotch your way through seasons when they hit here. If it doesn't show up for 3 months, don't have it for 3 months. There's nothing that says because you're a cord cutter, you need all the things all the time. That is the key thing, all the time. So for me, the Discovery Plus is a streaming service that I will be bringing into my rotation. Does it do it for you? It depends if one of these massive amount of TV networks has shows that you like. If you were like me and you lived on Discovery, history, travel, all of that, this is going to be worth it for you. I do recommend shelling out the extra $2 for the ad-free version because, well, that just makes things so much nicer, especially if you're going to be using this for almost like waterfall TV. My wife has gone through 15 seasons of diners, drive-ins, and dives, just having it on the background while she's doing things. Having the ad-free version means it moves through them so much more quickly and you don't get interrupted with the ads. The ads aren't terrible, but again, $2 more, save yourself that. If you haven't gotten the impression, I do like Discovery Plus. I do think there is a little work that needs to be done for optimizing it for the Roku, but that aside, it is a solid new contender to the streaming cord cutting world. With that being said, I have been Wanderer001. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the area below. And as always, thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, consider giving it a like, as that will help other people find the video as well. If you like what I'm doing here, you can always help fuel the next review by buying me a coffee, link in the description below. Last but not least, if you want to be notified when I upload a new video, you know what to do.